Hello, everybody. My name's Andrew Jones. I am one of the lecturers over at the Hugh Baird University Centre in graphic design. And hello today. Today, I just wanted to talk a little about colour, okay, within the design industry. Welcome to my studio. Colour is important to me and should be to you. It's everywhere. And what I do is I work with my own graphic design firm and also with the students to try and tackle everyday problems. And colour can be one of those. But ultimately, the fundamental background of colour is colour theory and the colour wheel. So with the colour wheel, if I just get it up for you, we've got colour theory. Straight away, we've got the centre part. Now, colour wheels come in various designs. This is your basic. You've got your primary colours. They are your yellow, blue, and red. And when you mix yellow and blue together, you get green. Red and yellow, orange. Blue and red, violet, and so forth. They would be your secondary colours. When you move outwards, you get to your tertiary, and that's when you can start to explore colour theory a little bit more. Okay. So there are other methods of colour. Things like monochromatic colour schemes. Monochromatic colour schemes, sorry, is the same hue. So in the example we have here, we've got blue, and an interior designer might just use a blue as a colour scheme, and that would be monochromatic. Okay. Some designers also use analogous colours, which are colours that are adjacent or next to each other. So you might look at the colour wheel and you say, there's red, yellow, bit of maroon coming in on that. And you might then throw in an accent colour, a splash. And in this case, this interior designer has used a very strong violet within the colour scheme. It's very important within not only fashion design, but also interior design, and also logos. So as a graphic designer, if I'm given a project brief, I will hopefully, if the brief's gone according to plan, got the script, what the company wants, what the mission statement is, maybe a series of colours that they already have that we have to work with. If not, and it's full rain, wonderful, you can throw out there. However, with logos, you want to keep it simple. So these are colour schemes that are next to each other on the palette, as you can see, Shell, Subway, and BP. The good thing about logo design in its basic form, you've got to keep it simple. You've just got to make sure that you don't overdo it. If you start throwing in gradients and all kinds, excuse me, you're going to muddy the eye and the concept. You've also got to think about your clients and what their needs are. If they're a blue chip corporate company, you can't use bright red, for instance. Blues and harmonious tones might suit the purpose a lot more. And then you've got stuff that I do. Okay, so I have this firm called the Jones Boys, and I started it with my twin brother many years ago. Here's a little secret. When we produce these designs, we only ever use the same color palette. And there's a reason for that. As you can see on the screen, they match each other. And that was something that we found at the start that we wanted to do. So we've worked with interior design firms like Natalie Holden and Art Deco Cinema down in Porthcroll, where we've supplied artwork, but also given them advice about their room and how to color manage it. With our work, we make sure that we use the same yellow, the same blue, and the same greens. And that way, when you buy one or two, you end up buying 3 or 4 because it actually works as a set. So that was quite a nice little thing at the start. To get some inspiration, for me personally, I look at books. I collect lots of colourful books, and it's because I want to try and get a sense of colour for that time period. For instance, if I'm doing a project for somebody, you know, all little catalogues, brochures from the 1930s. Okay, I love this patina. Artists like Brian Cook, for instance, who is a great source of inspiration to me, and his colour palette. When I started the Jones Boys, and when I'm doing any work currently at the moment, what I tend to do is I'll get my phone, I've got an app on there, and I'll take scans of the colour, or I'll scan it, I'll put it up on the on Photoshop or Illustrator, and take colour samples. Books like colour indexes are really useful. Should never be passed by. You can see what colours are complementary, okay, and beautiful gifts. So for my colleague Shirley, she picked this up for me, and it's just the story of colour. So if I want to know about, let me see, a colour called Aftermath, Violet, is a blind, Whitewash, the story and the history of colour. It's a great book. Check it out. Secret Lives of Colour. A good source of inspiration as well as a designer is collect things, old paperwork, stamps. You don't know when you're going to need this to use in your artwork. They say artists and designers are visual magpies. We just collect, we grab. This studio, if I turn this camera around now, it's just full of stuff. I've got shelves full of stuff like this, okay? And anybody who knows me knows I have stuff. I just love it. So I collect catalogues. Never bought anything from Cath Kidston. It's not my style. However, the colour palette is just beautiful. You know, they get it right. So if I'm trying to find a colour scheme for a project, or if I'm talking to the students about a project, we get this out. And over in the L20 design studio on the first floor, there are lots of resource and magazines and catalogues everywhere. The students pick and dip when they need things. Okay. Now there are online websites that can aid you in your colour theory. Okay. First one I would recommend is Pantone. Pantone.com. It's an interactive website, so you can pick and choose the colours. My firm favourite is Adobe Colour. Okay, so that's on the next slide. So it's Adobe Colour, and what that is, it's part of the Adobe range. So it works with the Adobe Suite CC that we're currently working with. And on the left-hand side, you'll see that you've got a list of all the various types of colour. It's like having a pub without beer. You've got to know about colour palettes, okay, and about that kind of part of the industry, okay. So Pantone, for instance, who are the industry specialists, okay, their website, you can pick up your colour samples and your swatches, etc. But you'll be paying a hefty price for that kind of stuff, okay. These are aimed at designers. If you choose a certain colour and you're working in your studio for a client in, say, New York, and you've both got the same colour swatch, you know what you're talking about. It's a great website to look at on anyway, because you've got case studies and trend forecasting. We can actually find out what is happening next year in the colour palettes. Okay. So, what else have we got? We've got Adobe Colour, as I've already mentioned. And what you can do is things like this. How cool is that? You can drop in a photograph, and in this case, it's my son strawberry picking. And what you do is you throw that into the exact theme tab, which is on the top left, and it will give you an exact theme. So it'll choose colours for you that are complementary. If you put it into the exact gradient, you'll get a gradient. Okay, so that's a really nice site just to play with, especially if you've got a client who is a graphic design firm and they give you a load of work, and they might have a house style, and you want you might want to do some work for them or work with them in some capacity. You can drop things like that. Not that a graphic design firm would probably come knocking on your door for work, because they've got all the artists working for them. But if you are working for an accountant or a solicitor or whoever, okay, it's a really nice site. What else have we got? I think we can talk about rules. Okay, there are several rules that we can look at within colour theory. The main thing I would say to any undergraduates is when you're working with text, avoid patterns behind it. Just avoid it. At the moment, my screen on my desktop is a pale pink because that's how I feel today. It's a very mild and very relaxing color. I try and choose my desktop to suit the day, so to speak. It's an odd thing to do, I suppose, but that's what I like doing. So you avoid patterns behind text, and I can also see what I'm looking at. Okay. Don't use the same colors as your competitors. If you are working for a firm and you're doing a logo for them, okay, yes, you might want to go and look at their competitors for inspiration and thoughts and see what else you could do. That'll show the client off better than the competitors, but try and look different. Third thing I would say is consider your brand colors. Know the meaning of your colors. Okay, fast food chains generally use red and yellow. You wouldn't use red and yellow if you're working with an undertaker. The color theory is there. Okay, know your color theory and research it. And these are the terms that you want to be typing in on the internet on Google searches. Look for color theory, hue, tone, shade, and tint. Don't just type in the word color because you're going to get a big box open. I'm not sure where you're looking. Use richer colors for prominence. So we talked about before a spice or a rhythm within the artwork. You know, if you're using a monochromatic design color palette, you might throw in an accent color. So that might help. And consider culture as well. Certain cultures have different connotations. Okay, certain colors have different connotations to cultures. So you don't want to be using one color that might be offensive in one culture that is very different in our own Western civilization. And don't be afraid of white. White space is our friend. Okay, it's not school. We don't have to color to the edge. You open up some really beautiful graphic design brochures, books, and periodicals these days, and the use of white space is beautiful. You know, you only need a limited bit of information, and the white stark of the paper can actually help the composition of what you're trying to suggest within the artwork. And always trial your colors and ask the people around you. Okay, so if you're an undergraduate and you're working on a project, ask the guy or the girl next to you. Throw it out there in the space. And also, if you are actually doing work for a client, remember, if you start printing it off, it's going to be expensive if they say no, and you've got to make them changes. So websites like Graphic Burger, it's a mock-up template. If you're doing some logos for a business card or whatever it is, you can trial it on there and show the client what it might look like at the end of the day. And all this is all very interesting, but you've got to make sure that the space you're in, okay, helps you see the monitor that you're working on. Because at the end of the day, if you're in a bright room and the sun's coming through and you can't see what's on the screen, there's not going to be a true realization about what you're trying to produce. Hence why my Mac is away from the window. I have blinds, I have daylight bulbs that are set up, and I can actually control these, okay, and turn them off so I can get a true representation about the color that I'm trying to view. Okay. So that really is it with kind of a color theory masterclass. It's a basic one, but hopefully all the links to the websites and also all the links to people are popping up and saying hello. All the links to websites and basic color theory, but it's that word. You just don't want to say color theory into a Google search. You want to be typing in the correct terminology. Okay, tint, for instance. Tint is it makes things lighter. So if you've got a red and you want it lighter, you use a tint, and it's using that terminology. Shade, something darker, so you add a bit of black, and then if you mix them two together, you get tone. Okay, tonal value. So these are all the things that our undergraduates get taught over on the design courses. Okay. I hope that was okay for you and a bit informative. Thank you very much. If you want any more information, just contact me at andrew.jones@hubert.ac.uk. Thank you.